Hello, I'm Greg Mehlin, and welcome to Cinema Sit Down, a show where myself and others come together to talk movies. For today's episode, we're going to be discussing the MCU's newest release, a little-known film called Spider-Man: No Way Home. And unlike usual episodes, because everybody's seen this thing, and because most things we want to talk about are spoilers, we're going to be talking about spoilers. And there's even going to be spoilers in the background pages of the two guys with me today. The film is written by Chris McKenna and Eric Summers and directed by John Watts and stars once again Tom Holland as Spider-Man. It picks up where the last one left off. Spider-Man's identity has just been revealed as Peter Parker, and he has been framed as a villain. He tries to fix this issue, and it goes very, very wrong and opens up a multiverse. It's everybody who has an interest in this film knows what the plot is, so you know that. I'm joined today by Matheus Bueno and Cooper Tennant. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good. Happy to be back now here talking to you about this movie. And yeah, I'm on break now and excited to be here again.
I'm also very excited since I feel like this movie has some great talking points. So I think we'll have a good little decent conversation.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope so. So then let's just get right into this. Give me your initial thoughts. What did you guys think of Spider-Man: No Way Home?
I thought this movie was really good. You know, it definitely lived up to what the expectations, because we've all been like waiting on this. They didn't tease it a lot. And I saw, it was great for especially for the fans, to finally get this big, delivered. So we can say spoilers, but we've all been waiting for this so very long, and it's almost like I thought I'll tell Cooper this. It's more like it almost plays as a fan experience, it's the whole everyone's been waiting to it. The theater was going crazy, and I thought it was really good, really fun, and it has a nice coming of age, but also superhero stuff. It does it all, and it's really fun.
Yeah, no, I was really surprised. I kind of thought I knew what would happen going into it, because I tend to keep an open ear for leaks and stuff like that. So I was kind of aware of some of the bigger reveals. But the fact that they almost turned this movie into an origin story for Tom Holland's Spider-Man is really amazing to me. And I think it almost makes me enjoy the other Spider-Man movies even more. And it's, I really thought this would be a not a finale, but kind of a moment where I was like, okay, I can take a break from Spider-Man for a bit. But Marvel got me. I'm even more excited for what they're going to do next.
When there was all these rumors circulating about this movie, it's going to be bringing back people from the previous cinematic Spider-Man series. And when I first heard about that, I actually thought please don't. I thought that this was going to be a real mess, and that it was going to take away focus from Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So I was a bit reluctant going into this movie, but I ended up really, really enjoying myself here. I thought that this was fun, and I thought that my worry that this would sort of be all over the place. Then they kept it pretty streamlined, it didn't feel messy at all, even though there was so many kind of moving pieces coming into this. And so, well, I guess we'll talk about the thing that everybody's talking about then. So Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, they're back in this. Then they're returning as Spider-Man alongside the new one, Tom Holland. And at first that was my big worry. I was just please don't make it so focused on them instead of him. I was really worried about that. And to my delight, when those guys showed up, I just thought these guys are awesome. They all three of them worked really well together, and it did a good job where the focus was still always on Tom Holland rather than those two stealing his spotlight.
I was also worried, how are they going to bring all this back, all the stuff from old movies, all the stuff from a new one, while trying to develop the Spider-Man. It is the third one in his trilogy, so to speak, focused on him. But I think they did a really good job, because they almost they perfectly managed to use them to build the character of Tom Holland Spider-Man, and also please the fans with getting some, a certain closure with the other two Spider-Man. And I thought that was really cool. I thought they honestly did a pretty good job with it. And honestly, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield is still killing it. It's kind of crazy, how, you can tell they're older, but they still got it. And it was great to see that their chemistry on screen was even better than I ever expected. It's almost like they've known each other for so long. It was so good.
Yeah, seeing all of them kind of work together and kind of just hang out, it almost feels like they've known each other forever. I think that's something that was really surprising, but also I guess important because they are kind of the same person, so they're meant to be able to interact like that. But just to reiterate what Greg and Matheus said, like it does feel like Tom Holland's movie. You know, it never at any point was I like, oh, you know, like I wish I could get more of Tom, you know, like because I mean, even the scenes that he's not in at all, it's focused around him. Like especially the scenes when Toby and Andrew show up for the first time. You know, they're trying to bring in Tom Holland's Spider-Man, but they just so happen to bring in, you know, the other two. But no, I really loved it. I think this movie did what I kind of deemed impossible.
Yeah, and I want to say so. With the whole multiverse thing, I actually thought what I really liked about this movie was it sort of took things in all three cinematic universes that were sort of varying levels of issues or whatever, and it sort of made them all better in a way. Just sort of, I can go into more detail, but I mean, the big one for me was sort of what they did with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, which, Andrew Garfield is a fantastic actor, but his Spider-Man was pretty divisive, and it's really, I'm glad that people now are seeing that it was like the writing and whatever for that movie. He was never the issue. Like he is, he was like a version that never really got any kind of closure because his movies, people didn't like them too much. And so then they just cut them off and started this new series instead. And I thought that they did finally give him like some kind of a satisfying ending here rather than just sort of leaving that hooked off. And they did that to an extent with Tobey Maguire too, where his series had a more definitive ending. But they sort of talked about a bit of what happened with him later and where he sort of went. And I like that a lot because he was also supposed to have more movies. And then they said, well, nobody liked the third one. So screw off, Toby.
I will actually say on that point, there's a moment, this is the one disappointment I have regarding them bringing another Spider-Man and what they could have done with it. The moment where Tom Holland says like, what are some of the villains you fought? Like, what are, I was expecting them to say like what they did say, like, oh, like I fought Green Goblin, I fought, Lizard, I fought Electro, but I wanted to hear about some of the people that we didn't see them fight, just to kind of flesh out those worlds a little bit more. It almost felt like Marvel was a little afraid to even touch those worlds just in case they want to revisit them, or they feel like, people hold those on such high pedestals that if they add anything to it, they'd be, upset or annoyed. But I don't know, like, just be like, oh yeah, I fought a dude with like a scorpion tail, or I fought like a hunter, like, I don't know.
He does say, yeah, he mentions like, oh, I fought like a Russian guy on
with the tank.
Yeah, with the
tank. The rhino, yeah.
Well, that was at the tail end of Amazing Spider-Man 2, where Paul Giamatti just screams in a rhino, and also nobody shoots at his very exposed head. But I'm not going to nitpick that movie right now. Enough people did that like 7 years ago. So.
Yeah, it's definitely. I don't know if they're probably not allowed to do that, or if like I don't know, because Sony's weird with that stuff. But yeah, it would have been cool to have some teaser. I do really like how they like kind of touch up. Like we had that moment where like they talk about the Avengers and they're both like, like what? Or they're like Avengers so cool, and they're like, what is that? Like a band or something? I thought that was really funny. I thought like because we were both like, whoa, like is there another Avengers in like the other universe? But no, there isn't. It's just Spider-Man. And I thought that was kind of fun. They're like, what is this? I thought that was really fun. But yeah, no, those nice little touches I think really worked out. Like a lot of like. It's almost like a lot of that stuff could have been cut. Like it's just it sounds like it's just the actors talking, but it's so good. Like I'm fine with leaving it there. Like it helps a lot.
The amount of like deleted scenes or just outtakes, from that little them interacting on the Statue of Liberty like scaffolding. Like I can't wait to watch that because it really does feel like as a editor myself, it did feel like they could have easily cut out some bits from that section, but I'm really happy they didn't because it gave you some good one-on-one time with the characters before they, team up and, fight.
Cooper, you just mentioned characters, so I'm just going to transition into here. What did you guys think of, the overall cast here of characters and performances? Because, like I said, there's a lot of like, I don't know, there's more than 10 main characters really in this movie, and juggling them must have been difficult, but I really thought that they pulled it off. And Tom Holland, he's still my favorite Spider-Man. Seeing this movie did give me newfound appreciation of both of the previous two, but like you said, this is his movie. He really delivers here. I love what he's done with the character. I'm really looking forward to what he does in the future with the character. I thought his supporting cast is still really great, and obviously then the villains, which it was sort of nice. Because with all these movies, it's all like, you have to build the villain up from like the very beginning then. And here, these are all just previously established guys. So you sort of get more time to just get right into things than having to, all right, we have to go through their origin story and everything. And these guys are all great. They've proved it before. Even ones that I didn't like in the original movies, I enjoyed here. And, Alfred Molina as Doc Ock was great. And Willem Dafoe, round of applause for that, man. He's beautiful with his terrifying face. I'm so glad you can see here in my background, unless if you're listening on Spotify, I have him there in his stupid mask from the first movie. That mask is so silly. And this movie knew what they were doing, because that thing gets smashed in his second scene. And because they know that any goblin mask in the world will never be as frightening as Willem Dafoe just smiling his vicious smile. It's wonderful. He's a beautiful, ugly man and a great.
Honestly, yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I think Willem Dafoe kind of carries, like, in terms of acting in this. Like, you can really tell. Like, that was the one thing that I noticed. I mean, everyone's really good in this. Honestly, with Tom Holland and Zendaya, everyone, like, you can see they, like, really put a lot of effort to this, and like they're really good. How do you top that? Like, how did he's like the ultimate like Spider-Man villain, and I think Marvel knows that because they brought him back. Like, he was the first one you see, and he's like technically the main villain in this. So he kind of, I told him how much people, like, he kind of carries this movie. Not that the movie sucks, but like he kind of like you can see like he raises to another level. I mean, the scene where he like changes up, or you see him as Norman, and then he just turns around and smiles, and it's like terrifying. I thought that was so good. Like it just gave me like chills at the theater when I saw it. But honestly, like, aside from that, one of the photos I saw, like, he was already like, if it was only him in this movie, I already watched. If it was just Spider-Man and Willem Dafoe, I watched that. But I think they did a really good job with the chemistry between like Peter and his friends, like Ned and MJ. I think that like this movie really sells it, like how their relationship, how they like help each other out, and they both know he's Spider-Man. And you can tell, like, I mean, from the beginning that he really wants them to know. He's like relieved about it, but then so all that stuff happens, and he needs to fix everything. But yeah, no, I think this is the first movie that really does like the whole like double life thing really well, where he like needs to balance that out to protect his friends, and I think the acting really helps. I think that there's also really good chemistry, really good with everything. With
Yeah,
the cast
I'm
and the characters.
I've always been someone who, like, I haven't seen Tom Holland in anything other than the Spider-Man movies. So I don't have the best idea in terms of him as an actor, because he does fine in the Spider-Man movies, especially that scene in Homecoming where he's like lifting the rubble off of him. That's a really good moment.
Yeah.
But I never really saw anything that really made me go like, wow, like Tom Holland's a really great actor. But he, like, in a movie with like Andrew Garfield, Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina, like all these guys that are incredible actors, he really like I'm not gonna say outshines anybody, because I don't think anybody outshines anybody in this movie. But I mean, he really brings it. Like, the last moment in the cafe where he, like, you see on his face, he makes the realization that they're better off without him. Like their safety, their lives, like they might not know him, but it's not hurting them to not know him, because in this world they never did. And that really got me. Like, I didn't expect to cry, in a Spider-Man movie, but that really got me. I really think he impressed me in this movie. But I mean, yeah, come on, like Willem Dafoe. I mean, what do you expect? It's Willem Dafoe. He's not gonna bring it. I am happy though that this movie did bring back Andrew Garfield and kind of made him not a joke. He's not a joke Spider-Man, but he's constantly like really getting down on himself, and he's like, "Oh, I'm the worst. Like, I'm the worst Spider-Man." And then they have that moment that's a little tongue in cheek where Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire is like, "No, you're amazing. Like, say it to yourself. You're amazing." Like, the little therapy session I thought was really cute. But yeah, no, I mean, I just having these many like really good actors brought together is a bit of a melting pot, and in this case, I think it turned out really well.
With the talk of Andrew Garfield, I'm just going to take a second here. Everybody watch Tick, Tick, Boom. He's amazing there. I know
He's great.
you guys can back me up on that. But he he has my favorite scene of the movie, really, which was I mentioned, like, his lack of closure in his original movies. So here, at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2, they just shoehorn in Gwen Stacy dying, and and then it's just like, all right, now the movie's over. Like, it never went anywhere. It felt like such a wasted opportunity of this iconic comics moment. And here they sort of they get to kind of close that out because he saves MJ in this in a very similar circumstance, and I thought that was really that was a beautiful moment, really. And you saw it in his face because he's an amazing actor. Also, I didn't mention, Benedict Cumberbatch is back here. By the way, Cooper can back this up. Watch The Power of the Dog. He's great in that.
That's also very good.
Him as Doctor Strange, he's a very welcome presence here. He's great in that role. And I liked that, at first people were sort of like, previous Tom Holland Spider-Man movies sort of had like a mentor figure then, and they don't do that here. He is like a major player in the movie, but he's sort of absent from enough of it where it doesn't feel like, oh, he's like carrying Spider-Man. No, Spider-Man's dealing with his own issues instead, and that's great. Then two things before I move to a different point. I guess if there was two characters that was a little disappointed, and I'm nothing too harsh on this, but I guess so. I mean, there's character Flash, who's he's a secondary. So I'm not too upset. Or becomes like Peter's like best friend or whatever. Like he's his bully, and then he sort of reforms here. And I thought, oh well, if he knows Peter's Spider-Man like everyone else, that's probably what they're gonna do. Instead, he's just sort of like still the annoying guy who just wants to, hey, I want to hog the spotlight now that I know Spider-Man. Which maybe they'll make him a nicer guy. I mean, he's not a big jerk here. I don't know. Again, that's minor stuff.
They give him some character like on the second one where they show that like he's like,
yeah, but they don't really do it here. Like again, there's the future.
He does have that,
but now he doesn't even know who Peter is.
Yeah, that nice little moment when, I mean, it's such a small little character moment, and it's really just to let him know where to find the MIT woman or whatever. But when not Zendaya, MJ and Peter all get their letters back from MIT, and they say that they haven't been accepted, he comes in, and at first he's like, it seems like he's bragging, but he's really celebrating because he thinks that they also got in and that they could all go together. But then he realizes that he didn't, and he does show a little bit of humility, which I thought was really nice. Like, he definitely hasn't gotten any like real development in these movies, but the little hints that they add in, I feel like they kind of flesh out the group a little bit better.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I don't want to take up too much time on like the 15th biggest role in this movie, but then I'll just say, so another thing, and he was in the tail end of the last movie. It's great to have J.K. Simmons back as J. Jonah Jameson, because yes, another round of applause. Yes, Cooper, because there's few things in this world more beautiful than hearing that man yelling the name Spider-Man. It's wonderful. But I will say, with my sort of complaint, as fun as he is here, I vastly prefer like other versions of the character where, oh, he's like a jerk, but he's a good guy deep down. Like this guy is out. I mean, granted, he thinks Peter is a terrorist, so I'll give him a little bit of slack, but he wants to ruin this man's life. Like he's sort of ruthless. So I don't know, maybe future movies can make him more likable. I don't know. He's a pretty big jerk here.
In this movie, he is like a super big jerk. And thinking back to the Sam Raimi trilogy of Spider-Man, like he wasn't the nicest guy there, but there's that great moment in the first movie when Green Goblin breaks in and almost basically, has J. Jonah Jameson by the neck and is like, tell me who's taking pictures of Spider-Man. And Peter's like standing right there. And J. Jonah Jameson is like, oh, some anonymous guy sends it in or whatever. And that's just such a good moment because it adds another level. Like he's really he's mean. Okay. I'm not gonna curse, but he's a bit of a butt, and having him like stand up for his photographers and stand up for Peter, someone who he assumedly hates, especially if it means getting closer to Spider-Man, who he especially hates. I don't know. It's a nice little moment.
Well, I'm glad that we talked about that moment from a movie 20 decades ago, or
Yeah.
2 decades ago.
Yeah, 20 decades.
But,
No, you're right.
but it's a very nice moment. All right, so going back to what I wanted to say before and forgot. So the way that this film ends, Cooper, you were talking about that, and I really did love the way that they approached this, because it was just a really selfless decision that he does. Like, he's Tom Holland Spider-Man was some people criticized him as sort of having it too good before, when a lot of the character's history is sort of having a crappy life. But so here, he gives up so much in order to really save the day, and I thought that that is the true essence of the character. And I love the way that they're sort of leading off, which is somebody who does not know Spider-Man may be like, oh no, he has absolutely nothing, that's terrible. And I'm like, oh no, he has absolutely nothing, that's great. That's character.
Finally.
His life sucks,
Yeah.
but he just keeps doing what he's doing, and that's Spider-Man. And they're going in that direction. And Cooper, you got in your background that swagger suit that he makes at the end of this. That suit is only on screen for a few seconds, and it's already the best Spider-Man suit ever in live action.
It's so good. I love it. And I will say, the one critique that I don't necessarily completely agree with, but also completely understand from specifically Spider-Man fans about the Tom Holland Spider-Man, is that he does have it really good. Like he has, other than that homemade suit that he uses, he doesn't really build any of his things. He builds the web fluid, whatever. He builds the homemade suit, but like the Stark Tech suit, the Iron Spider suit, like it does a lot of things for him. And especially like the villains. I mean, I personally like the fact that each of his villains have been creations of his mentor, Tony Stark, and he's having to deal with the repercussions. He's almost dealing with the sins of Tony Stark's past, which I liked. But a lot of people didn't like that. But I really think this movie improved the other movies, because it showed that he did have to grow up. Like he did have to grow up out of being a little kid. Even Doctor Strange says several times in this movie, like, you are just a child. But at the end of the movie, it seems like he's really impressed with the fact that like Peter is willing to make the entire world forget who he is to save everybody. Like I don't know. I found it extremely satisfying. And it was unexpected on my behalf that they made a trilogy of films his origin story. Having Aunt May say, "With great power comes great responsibility." Like, that was the moment that I realized, like, oh, like this is it. Like, this is his big moment. He hasn't really had that yet. I mean, Tony Stark was a big moment for him, but this is solely his. And like the execution was just so, I thought it was just perfect.
I was surprised that they actually did that, but the way that this movie deals with like loss and stuff is really, really well done. I mean, the scene with like her Aunt May's death, they like really, it feels like they really hold on to it, but like it honestly makes it so much more powerful, because you see in the other Spider-Man movies, like when we lose Uncle Ben, it's almost like boom, boom, he's sad, that's it, move on. While with this, we like really hold on to it, really see him, and then there's that whole like beautiful scene with him in the rain. It's almost like a Blade Runner type scene.
Yeah.
It was definitely one of the most like prettiest scene, and then the way they deal with loss was really cool. But it's like Greg said, now he has nothing, and I think that's like almost like the most beautiful thing about Spider-Man. It's like his life sucks, and he still chooses to help people out because that's who he is. And I think we're finally past that stage where he's like trying to deal with like doing all the teenage stuff and like saving the world all at the same time and losing it all. And I think that was really interesting. Well, I saw people that criticized that. It was like, oh man, like how like really really get a lot of like regular Spider-Man. But I think now is the time that we they set it up really well, and I'm excited to see what they're gonna do, especially with that new cool suit.
Oh, so good.
That
and he made it himself.
beautiful.
It's 100% Peter Parker. Love it.
I don't know how, but
No, I don't know how either.
I don't know how
that.
any of these guys ever made any of their suits, but whatever. You can't question everything in comic book movies. He shoots webs out of his hands. Come on, let's cut some slack. But so we're talking about sort of the ending, because it is like a fresh start, and I love that because they're saying like, oh, we're probably going to be doing like another trilogy of movies with him. I'm ready for that. Where do you guys sort of want to see him go? Like, and what characters do you want to see him meet? So I'd like to see who is sort of a mainstay, and in Homecoming, he appears before becoming this supervillain alter ego is like the Scorpion. He's in that, and they heavily hint at him popping up again. And I'm not sure if they just forgot that. I'm not sure if they're playing the long game here. He's going to come back in later, but I'd like to see him because he's also played by Michael Mando there, and that's a brilliant actor. Everybody who knows Michael Mando on Better Call Saul, you can speak for me then. But I'd also like to see him because I'm hearing rumors, and they were saying that this character was supposed to appear in the previous 2 cinematic versions before they got axed off. Is like the character Black Cat, who's sort of like a anti-hero, villain, thief, but good guy sort of person. In like other versions of Spider-Man, I think that character always has a fun dynamic with him. I'd like to see if they could explore that then, especially since they've clearly wanted to do this character for a long time and just never got around to it.
Yeah, the character, I think what's her name? I think Felicity Jones played the character of Black Cat in Amazing Spider-Man
like
2.
she was like in it for like 2 seconds and had
It's like a
absolutely nothing in
tease.
common with the character outside of her name. Like Spider-Man 2 is just, they wanted to make their own cinematic universe with only Spider-Man characters, so it was a mess.
You know, I think Black Cat would be great, especially now that MJ's out of the picture. They could do a little love story with Black Cat. But I mean, at the end credit scene, they tease Venom. I'd love to see Venom. I'd love to see, and he's in this movie. I'd love to see a movie where Daredevil and Spider-Man team up and they take on, like street level crime, and maybe they discover that there's a crime boss, like a kingpin or something. But I just want to see a team up movie, to be honest with you. I mean, now that he is like a street level hero, like people don't know who Peter Parker is. Just the possibilities. Love it.
I do just want to quickly say before Matheus joins in here, Charlie Cox, he's in this movie for like 2 minutes, but that man is Daredevil. That man is Daredevil.
It's so good.
Perfect in that role, and he makes the most of what he has here. I want to see more of him again.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was thinking like this is really unrealistic, but I think like a Spider-Man show like this would be so cool to see all this like smaller scale stuff. It's not obviously not going to happen because they can't get Tom Holland and all the budget to do a show, but that would be really
awesome
cool.
though.
Or at least have like an appearance in, like, if they make a new Daredevil, have that in the show, somehow pull those strings, Sony and Marvel, because I would love to see that. But yeah, it's like you said, I would like to see Venom, what they're gonna do with that. I have no idea how they're gonna do that. I mean, they tease the whole, so, like the symbiote stays behind
in Mexico.
In Mexico,
yeah.
I haven't seen Venom 2, so, but apparently that's not important.
No,
but I wanna,
the end credit scene of this movie completely negated any kind of importance Venom 2 had, which I'm a little annoyed about. But
there you go. So
I didn't watch Venom 2, so I'm okay with it.
Exactly. But I think they're gonna do I don't know, I think they're gonna put him in somehow, and I wonder if we're gonna see like the black suit, but I would also like to see more smaller scale stuff before. I don't know how would they do that, but see him fight the old villains, have him fight is it Craven? Or
Craven,
I think they tease a little bit in this one where you see him like in the sky and stuff, like one of the villains, and I think that would be interesting to have that.
Actually, I just want to say, forget the Scorpion. I mean, I'd still like to see him. I forgot. Craven is the villain that I want to see. Cast Jason Momoa as Craven. He looks like Craven.
Oh, he'd be so good.
I just want this crazy hunter guy hunting down Spider-Man.
Sony's doing a Craven movie, and the guy that they cast as Craven is the guy who played Quicksilver in Aaron
you're
Marshall,
right. They are doing that. I
think is kind of not. I mean, I like him, but I don't have any interest in a solo Craven movie.
You need a big guy for Craven.
Yeah, it's like I don't care about Morpheus, but they're doing a Morpheus movie. I am excited to see that though, because I like Jared Leto.
I don't like Jared Leto, so I'm not excited to see that.
Yeah, his name's Michael Morbius.
Those like solo villain movies, I don't know what's the deal with that. Like, why?
Well, they're weird because they're like not technically in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Then, like it's
like an alternate.
Just trying to capitalize on characters that Marvel isn't using. Then, like,
yeah. Like Venom 1 is fine. Venom 2 is not great.
I may actually check out the Venom movies just because Tom Hardy's little cameo here. I'm thinking like I hear that those movies aren't good, but he seems fun in it.
He's really fun. You can tell he loves being Venom. Like it's so funny. Like I was so excited to see possibly Tom Hardy and Tom Holland playing their own characters, like interacting, because that would just be so stupid. Like so stupid. But like we're probably, maybe they'll wait, but I think they're gonna hold off on any multiverse Spider-Man stuff for a while. So I don't really see a world where we're gonna be able to see Like, and what does this mean for Venom 3 if they do one? Is he just gonna show up? He's gonna be like, well, forget about all that just happened. Time to
I don't
fight
wanna think
some
about that.
dude. Like, I don't know, man. Like, what are the plans?
I'm glad that maybe it would be fun and maybe in the future we could see this, but I'm glad that they didn't have Tom Hardy interact with Tom Holland here, just because the Venom character, like if we want to see it properly done in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then I don't want it to be like this one from like a totally different world who's so different than popping up. Then I'd like to see them properly build it up. Yeah, but so all these Spider-Man movies, all these Marvel movies. So where do you guys think that this ranks then? Because for me, nothing in Spider-Man is topping Spider-Verse. That film is cinematic masterpiece. But this may be my favorite live action one. I don't know. Maybe I'll get over the thrill of it in a bit. But what do you guys think?
Nothing tops Spider-Verse for me. I still like to think Homecoming is my favorite MCU movie, my favorite Spider-Man movie, because I like how down to earth it is. Like it's a small street level crime kind of thing. Just for the nostalgia of it, I still think I prefer Spider-Man 2 over this. But it is hard to rank this movie because it isn't really like, it relies on you knowing a lot about the character and seeing the other Marvel movies in the sense that Endgame and Infinity War was. So it's hard to rank it as a movie because in terms of an experience, it's one of my favorite movie experiences I think I've ever had. But in terms of a movie, like it'd be hard to go into this not knowing anything.
No, yeah, I totally agree with Cooper. It's like, for me, I like Spider-Verse a lot, but out of the live action one, that's kind of like also in between like Homecoming, because it's like I just think I rewatched that movie recently, and it's just like so much fun. It's like they really get the school level like Peter Parker stuff. I think like the balance, it's almost like John Watts really does that old like 80s vibe to it, and I think it's really cool. But and then Spider-Man 2, they really get also another movie that gets Peter Parker really well, and Tobey Maguire kind of kills it. A little underrated sometimes, people, because he's a little weird, but
he's more than a little weird.
He's very weird, but I think that's cool. I think that's okay. We need a little weird sometimes. But for this one, I would think it's definitely also like more of an experience. Like I had so much fun watching this movie. I watched it twice, and both times were really fun. But yeah, no, I think this one is like hard to like say because you need so much of the other ones to like have that experience. But yeah, I think those two are definitely like up there,
guys. So make any last points here, but let's sort of get into would you recommend this movie? What are your final thoughts? I'll go first here. Well, there's not much point in recommending this movie because everybody's already seen it. But you know what? I will recommend it though, because it's a good time, and the whole audience was getting into it. They were getting a little too into it though. They wouldn't stop clapping in my showing. It was every single thing. I understand. Oh, Toby and Andrew showed up. All right, clap for that. Sure. Oh, Andrew saved MJ. Clap for that. But then there's a point where it's all like, hey, Toby, where's your Spider-Man suit? He's all, oh, I have it underneath my shirt. And then people are like, it's too. I enjoy the enthusiasm. That they aren't there. They're on the screen. We don't need to let them know that we appreciate the movie.
No,
Just tweet about it later.
I think it's fun. I think it's like, we've been all, almost 2 years now without having like a full theater with everyone and everyone being so happy to be here. So I think we deserve that. Obviously like no like yelling and stuff there. I saw some theaters where people were just straight up like yelling throughout.
I saw a guy do a backflip.
Dude, that video the guy doing a backflip. That's so good. Like I wish I could do that. Honestly, like that it's like I said, it's such a fun time, and to see everyone happy, like I couldn't stop smiling the whole time. Other than like the sad parts, but
yeah.
Thank you guys. You did an excellent job. This is wonderful. So normally I close out an episode by recommending you watch other episodes of this and other Pirate TV content. But today I have a little bit of trivia, which is of course that the credits for this they make a special mention in the middle of them to thank Avi Arad, who is for those who do not know, he's a producer. He's produced Marvel and Spider-Man stuff. And they refer to him, by the lovable moniker, the True Believer. And now for those unaware of Avi Arad, let me tell you a little bit about this fella, because he's the man who destroyed both cinematic versions of the Spider-Man universe before this one. He said to Sam Raimi, no, you got to stuff this stuff into the third one. Then everybody then was complained about that. That movie's over. Then that series is over. Then the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is all like, no, we have to put all of this into that one. We have to build our own cinematic universe. People did not like that. That movie was over. And it's only now that he does not have the same creative control on this project, that we have gone 3 Spider-Man movies without the series being destroyed. So with that being said, thank you, Avi Arad, for being the true believer. Then that is our show. Thank you. Goodbye.